Hello and welcome to Tea
Cake Conversation.
My name is Helen van Hooft and I am a medium and I'm a healer. I have worked in holistic therapy for over 15 years. I also work as a transformation consultant. I'm here today, or I'm joined with my good friend Ali Cabell. Hello.
Hey.
And Ali has worked in palliative and hospice care for over 20 years.
Yeah,
about that. And so the reason for doing Tea, Cake and Conversation really is to share with you some thoughts and ideas, things that people can get passionate about, and to see whether it can inspire you or just enthuse you in any way. And maybe it's just an interesting conversation to share. So today we will begin to broach the topic of death, because I have an expert with me. But also I feel especially in the Western world particularly, that we struggle with the concept of death. It often can be something that is feared.
It's quite scary to some people, isn't it?
So we're beginning to break a taboo in some ways, or hoping to help break a taboo in some ways, about the subject of death. And Ali is really desperate to drink her tea.
I am, but I'll wait.
So really, Ali, what in your years of working in the hospice, what is there that you come across? Is there a common theme that you see many times over in caring?
Yeah, fear is a massive thing for people with death. But in all honesty, when I start to see it, we've actually worked really well with people to expel their fears just by chatting and just generally being open about death.
So when you say people, are you talking about the patient that you're caring for, or are you talking about the family members that also?
Everyone really. So when we see people, we see them individually, because that's what we do, but we also see them as a family. Mm-hmm. And we encourage families and patients and relatives to actually talk to each other, because that's the thing where there's a big problem, where people don't talk to each other.
And what conversations do you hope to instill, or instigate is a better word really?
Yeah, we just try our best to actually make them sort of discuss the actual what they're feeling. It's a big thing is what they're feeling, and to tell each other how they feel, and to tell each other what they want, what they don't want, how just to really, really talk.
And I've been privileged to work in the same hospice where you work, and what I know, what I learned very quickly, is that there's so many skill sets that work within the hospice. It's not just the nurses, the doctors, or the healthcare assistants. You've got a big, I call it an engine room behind you.
There's a big team of us within the hospice, and we all work together as a multidisciplinary team. Mm-hmm. And I think that is great, because the patient is just signposted then, and the relatives really, to whoever they feel they need. So we're very, very lucky in the hospice environment.
But are there times where you, despite everybody's best efforts as a team, are there times or situations where it fails?
Yeah, there are. Sometimes there are people that you can't sort of relay that. They are frightened. You do get people that are frightened of death. You get people that are generally don't want to die. But then you get a lot of people, and I would say most of the people, by the time we've talked to them and we've discussed it and we're open, do feel at peace.
How do you get them from point A, which is fear or I don't want to die, denial, So if we just talk about a patient right now. So how do you get them from point A, which is the fear, the denial, the anger also.
Yeah, lots of anger.
To feeling, I wouldn't say maybe at peace, yes, for some, but acceptance of what to come, because that's a big A to Z.
It is, yeah. I think when people are going through treatment, and it's all positive and everything's okay, but when you get to the palliative stage where there is nothing more that they can do, I think that's when the conversations start and you start talking and you become more open, and it's honesty. It is the honesty that people need. And I think once they've got the honesty, then they have got a step that they can take into the next process. And it is very small steps for some people.
And how do you deal with someone that is in denial?
Lots of talking.
But if you can't get them to talk, how do you do that?
Quite often it's little things you can do, like spending time with family, enjoying the things that mean a lot to them, really. And I think that's a huge thing, is encouraging them to do things that are going to leave memories, I think, for their loved ones. That's a massive thing. And if you can encourage people to leave memories, and I think that gives them that bit of a purpose, that it's not all for nothing.
Do you have many incidences where you can't get them to talk?
No. We always get round. There is always somebody, that a person, and the same with life, you always get on with somebody. There's always somebody you get on better with than somebody else. Yeah. And there's always going to be somebody you don't get on with. But actually most of the team, I think, because they're so passionate about their work, that gives them really what they want to do. And it's the passion of their work that enables them to do the talking.
Is what I found when I was working there, and my little insight that I had, is the connection. And you know me very well, that connection is something that has to happen in order for some kind of alchemy or some kind of process to start to work. Yeah. And what I loved, because I wasn't so much on the nursing side of it, but to see you as a group of nursing team, is that if your personality didn't suit that person, you were able still to care for that person, but you stepped back from the role of trying to instigate a conversation with them. You would just do the care. Yeah. And you would know that your colleague would fill that gap, because that connection would happen between nurse C and patient A. Yes. And the connection between nurse F would be with patient E, or you know.
And I think that's the thing with working in that sort of care setting, and within that environment, you do all know that, and because you actually do work together as a team. And I do feel where I work, we are all very much a team, that we can work together. And if, like you say, if one person can't do it, somebody else can. And that's the beauty of it, I think, really, is being able to work together. And the patients do have the connections with staff, and sometimes it can be a volunteer that they're having a conversation with, and they're having that person. It could be anybody. It could be somebody within the spiritual care team. It could be anybody. But as long as that person has that connection, then I think they will talk.
And what I found when I worked alongside you guys was sometimes that person was me. Yeah. Because I know through touch you break down barriers. Yeah. And I can remember very well that I promoted a lot of fear in the hospice with some of the staff, because I was able to break that boundary, and I wasn't a counsellor or a doctor, or so boundaries became very important. And what I learned very quickly was that I've got a backup, but there was a professional respect. Yeah. And I had to make it very clear very quickly, I'm I know I'm not, but where I had to take my findings or whatever to those skilled people.
Yeah.
So what I've learned in that palliative hospice care is that conversation, tea and cake actually, were really important to the staff, because there's a lot of things that where you deliver the care for your patients, actually there's a lot of care that also has to happen with the staff.
Absolutely. And I think we all look after each other. And I think at the end of the day, most of us can actually go home and feel good about what we've done, knowing that we've probably helped somebody. It may only be small, but actually you can walk out of there at the end of the day knowing what we've done is something that you love doing and you are passionate about it. And I think if we can just, like we were just saying then, talking about death is great, because I think it opens it up for everybody to talk about.
Because do you think that when, as a family, you can be confronted with death for the first time, do you think that there's a huge learning curve that people have to kind of navigate? It's like some people, would you say that it's a I can't even say the word.
Trajectory.
That's the one.
Yes, I do. And I think it's great if it happens to people for the first time. And I think it's great if it involves the whole family, especially when you've got children and you're all completely honest about it and you don't hide it from children. And I think that's where we're actually going now, is that we're actually more open and we're more honest with children, and you can say the word and it involves them. And I think the thing is just being able to talk about it and not push it under the carpet and it's not happening.
And do you think that still happens?
I think it's happening more. I think it's happening a lot more. And obviously for me, working in the hospice environment, we encourage people to bring children in, grandchildren, and just to generally make it as normal for them as it is for when a baby is born for that person to die. So I think we just have to make it really natural.
And do you think that is part of a conditioning that society has gone through, that death is something that is pushed to the background?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes, I do, yeah. And I think it wasn't it? Definitely years ago, it was pushed to the background and, Mrs. So-and-so's, she's died. And
it was talked about in really
hush, quiet voice. But now it's great, because I think people can, talk about it and know it's not a taboo subject anymore. And I think we are generally getting better at it.
And have you seen a shift in that in recent years, or has it been like a gradual, in your opinion, obviously, gradual process to get there?
I think it's been gradual.
Okay.
Definitely over the years it's been gradual, and I think a lot more work is being done now for people to actually understand it more than it just be something that you can't discuss. I think there's lots of conversations about it, and there's lots of sort of different meetings and groups and things like that people can actually get to talk about it. And I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So in your role, do you prepare people for what is to come and what the loved ones have to do after the point of death? Yeah,
we always we start off, and obviously when we go into somebody's home, we often go there and just ask them, is there anything that they want to know? Are there any questions that they have, any fears, any worries? And we do lots of preparation into that. We start using a document called Advanced Care Planning, which we help the person sort of talk about. And in that, it gives them a chance to talk to their relatives about what they want, what hymns they want, if they don't want hymns, if they want a religious or non-religious ceremony, if they just want to be cremated or buried, or you all have those conversations, because there can be nothing worse when somebody passes away and they think, well, I didn't know what they wanted.
Exactly.
And I think that is the thing, and that's where we've got to the point now where we can actually freely talk about it. And that when they've talked about it, they've done it, they've written it down, and it's almost like a weight off their shoulders.
That's what I was going to say. Is it like a bit of a
I'm
relief?
sure it must be. I'm like, only talking from looking at what patients and people do, but it's, for them, it must be, because especially for the people, the loved ones that are left behind, they, it must be awful to think, I don't know what they wanted. Did I make the right decision?
Well, we've just experienced that as a family, as you know.
Yeah.
That we've had a close member of family that has died, and the people that were responsible in designing, making choices and making decisions about cremation or burial or all of the ins and outs of all of that, because it had never really been discussed, they were second guessing. They in my opinion, they did a really, really good job.
Yeah.
But seeing the thinking process in their grief, it was an added pressure, really, that can be absolved if families have conversations.
Absolutely. And by having those conversations, you can actually work out quite a lot about, and sort it, and it's done. And that's it. You don't have to worry about it. You could have that document written on a blank piece of paper. It doesn't have to be an official document.
No.
Just actually sit down and discuss it, because it's just something that it can be put in a drawer and never be talked about again.
I'm smiling because you and I think you know who I'm going to talk about. We have a mutual friend that died 8 years ago. A while ago. And so she knew that she was facing her death, and she took it upon herself in her own way to absolutely take control in some way of what she was going to do, what was going to have, and even what her husband was going to say about her. Bless him.
She
did. But I learned a lot through her in how she faced what was coming in her own style, and love her, she did it all her own way.
She did, and that's the thing, isn't it? We knew, and we both know, that she did it her way.
Yeah.
And what a lovely thing and a lovely memory for families to know that actually, right to the end, she did it her own way.
Her own way. Yeah.
And that's, that's great. It's amazing.
Obviously, she had time because her death was a real process. It was gradual. It wasn't until the end really that she wasn't compos mentis enough to make decisions. So she had that luxury, for want of a better word, to do that. But what about people that have a quick diagnosis, or it takes time and diagnosis happens, and then the point of diagnosis to death is quick? How do you work in those circumstances? Again,
that's, it is down to the openness and the honesty, and also though how much people actually want to know, because that's the other thing. If you've got somebody that really doesn't want to know, then that is a difficult one.
Yeah, because you have to respect the patient's
wishes. You absolutely have to respect their wishes, and if they really don't want to know, there's nothing you can do about it. All you can do is support their wishes, and just be there. And if they want to ask you a question, just be available for them to ask it.
But do you find that there's always someone in that family unit that want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously for that, and especially nowadays with everything as it is, you have to have the person's permission to talk to family members. And that's something that we do honour, and obviously in hospitals and everything honour that. And normally what we say is, are you happy for us to talk to whoever or a member of your family about your illness? 99% of the time the people will say yes, because nobody wants the families not to know things. You get the occasional person that says, no, I just want to deal with it myself. And You just have to respect that. But it is awful when somebody gets a short diagnosis, because they can't take it on board themselves, really. And it affects everybody, I think. I think even the nurses and the doctors and everybody sort of has to give that news. It's hard. It's really hard. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, I think the people that do these roles do it for a reason, and they're in it because they love what they do. So, yeah.
But do you think can be misconstrued when you say, well, we're in it because we love what we do?
Yeah.
That can be often, and I was in it before I worked at the hospice. I thought that environment was somewhere where it's going to be quite morbid. Yeah. You would have to talk in hushed tones.
Yeah.
There was a way that, quite muted and stuff. But actually, it is so opposite. There is so much laughter.
Yeah.
Not disrespectful
Absolutely
stuff.
Not.
No. But there is, for me, what struck me was there's almost like a joy of life in a hospice. Do you understand?
I think you're right. It's a very happy place.
Yeah.
And it's and I think so many people when they come into the hospice are so surprised by how it feels so great. It feels very sort of peaceful. It feels very but it feels very lived in, and everybody loves what they do, and everybody's happy in their work. And there's every patient that's there is, most of them are just so happy and grateful for everything. But it is a really happy surroundings within it. And I think we are lucky because we do have beautiful gardens, and we have, so it's just a beautiful place. And it's, I think it's genuinely a real sort of happy place.
But what get my words out, what struck me was how you are able to, say, go from one room where there's a certain energy, a certain acceptance or whatever, and you can be happy and laughy, jokey, and then in the next bay or the next room, the energy would be different, and you're the same nurse, but you would change and deal with that patient and their family as they wish to be treated.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think it is that. I think it's just that natural sort of, you step into one room and you are what that patient wants you to be because it's natural. And then again, like you say, you can step into another room where somebody is nearing the end of their life and it's a more quieter setting. And I think you know when that's happening. You know when to lower your voice. I do, yeah. And I think most of people that work within that environment do. And obviously, it's, you do get the odd one that's a little bit different, aren't you? Wherever you are. Really.
Yeah.
But no, it's just, I think you do. You're right. I think you do actually know what level you're working on. So
yeah, but true what you're saying, but also where I was also thinking with there was about the personalities and how you're one personality, each of you nurses, but you're able to mould yourself to some degree to the different personalities that are in that room as well. Yeah. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think you do because of, I suppose it's the experience and the working with all sorts of different people and also meeting all different sorts of people, as in patients, really. You just know how to, and I don't know how you do, but you do. You just know how that person's feeling just by the way they look, by the way they're sat. Just by going in and approaching that person and just looking, you can see. You're
talking about the patient.
Yeah, you can see. But even with staff, you can see, and even people, you can see, can't you, when somebody's feeling a little bit low or somebody's feeling a little bit flat or they're, happy, whatever. You can just tell. And I think that's just down to people, experience of being with people, isn't it?
And with the hospice service, are you involved just to the point of death or are you involved after?
No, we do offer service after. So it's a bereavement service. We always make a call, and we always send a card at the hospice that I'm working at. And at that card actually has a number on there for they can phone for bereavement counselling. They can just phone, and we can signpost them to different agencies.
So the signpost.
So it's the signposting that's so important. But we always sort of contact that relative after. And it's really nice when you actually see people, and you're maybe out walking and somebody comes up and says, "Oh, thank you so much," and it's a really lovely feeling to know that you're able.
Some people don't, though, do they?
No, some people don't. No, they don't, and that's but then that's people, isn't it? Yeah. So, but it is we do offer a good service. So
yeah, you do.
We do. But no, it's good, and we all sort of, I think most of us, quite free to talk about what we do and
how you do it.
Yeah, how we do it. So yeah, it's great.
Ali, thank you so much for joining me today on Tea, Cake and Conversation, and to talk about primarily what people can expect in a hospice setting.
My pleasure. Thank
you. So we're now off to finish our tea. I don't know about you, but I want to eat my cake. Thank you for joining.